Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy, and I'm here with Lucia Campanella, and we're going to talk a little bit about her background and the new book that she just wrote. So welcome, Lucia. Thanks for being here.
Thanks to you to invite me. Good evening to everyone.
So I don't know if you know, there was a very famous baseball player in America with the last name Campanella.
Oh yeah, yes, I know that in the past so many Italians with this surname went abroad. Yes, I know. And there is I suppose some actor that I suppose a certain Joseph Campanella that is in American. I suppose an actor, but I am not sure of this. Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
right. I forgot there was an actor with the name Campanella too. Well, there's a lot of Campanellas for sure.
Yes.
So where are you from? Where's your family from in Italy?
My family is from Foggia. It's a city in the up in Puglia, in the south of Italy, and every parent, every person of my family went to Foggia, from my father, and from my mother in a little country near Foggia. It's a very very little country on the mountains. So my family came from Foggia from generations.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that's not. Yeah, my mother's family's from Torito in Bari,
Yes, Torito. Yes.
uh,
Okay.
and they were all farmers.
Okay, your mother and your father?
My father was from Naples.
Naples. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Sorrentino is a great surname. I don't know if you know Paolo Sorrentino with his film. He won an Oscar award. I suppose 2 or 3 years ago with the film La Grande Bellezza.
Oh,
I
I
don't
didn't know.
know.
Yeah, I didn't know he went on. What we watched here, and I don't know if they showed it in Italy. I just asked a friend of mine who lives in Salerno, but
Yes.
they had a show here called the New Pope that he
Mm,
did, and it was like a series, and it was very good. That was the first works of his that I had seen,
okay.
and now I think he just coming out with a new movie. I don't know if it's based on his history, but it's supposedly about a Sorrentino family. My dad's family was Sorrentino. His mother was Piermalo and Cracciolo from the princes of Avellino. She descends from there.
Okay.
So very interesting for me, and I'm dying to come back. We had to cancel 2 times because of this COVID thing.
Okay. Have you ever been in Italy or
One
not?
one time, about 25 years ago,
Oh,
we went to Rome. Of course, everybody goes to Rome.
just Rome. Okay.
No, but then we went. We took the train to Naples to
Okay.
pick up a car to go to Sorrento, which
Yeah.
we loved.
Yeah.
But I
Wonderful.
didn't know back then that my grandparents both lived about a half a mile from the train station in Naples.
Oh, okay.
Right, Via Carbonara, if you know Naples at all.
Yeah.
That's where they lived, right there.
It's a busy area in front of the station in Naples. It's a very nice, but it's very characteristic area. Yes, it's very
Yeah.
beautiful.
So we missed out, but we'll get there. I'm going next year, no matter what. We're gonna get to Italy, no matter what.
You have to return in Italy.
Yes, and almost every Italian American that goes comes back with the same feeling that we somehow we belong there. You know, you get there and you feel connected to Italy. Maybe Germans feel the same way when they go back to Germany, or Irish when they go back to Ireland. But uh, I think there's something special to Italian Americans when they go back to Italy.
Yes. It's sure. In this year I have met virtually a lot of people with Italian origin, and everybody say to me the same things. This feeling that create something special between Italian and Americans, and who left Italy desires to come back and try to build a little corner of Italy in his town.
Yeah, and you know, and everybody who comes back says the same thing, that they're always welcomed, and you know, people go out of their way to either take, you know, they bring them to their homes for meals, or they put them in their cars and drive them someplace. It's really, you know, very, very incredible. So I want to talk about your book. Is this the first book that you wrote?
No, it's the second. I have wrote two books. The first one, the name of the first one is La Strada Madre in Italian, and in English, On the Model Road. And the second one, in Italiano, Un cielo perfetto, in English, A perfect sky. If you want, I have to speak about the first one.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about both of them. Yeah.
Okay, because there is a good news for you and my American friends. In these days, it will be published in English, translated in English, because I have met a very kind person, a very kind man that has is an editor and lives in Florida. And I don't know if you know him. His name is Leonardo Campanile. He came from, he's American, but he came from Mola di Bari, near Bari. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have in your contacts. And he has an editor that the name is Idea Press. And this editor is in New York. I wrote to him for my novel, and he accepted to translate into English. And so this first novel will be published in English, I suppose, in this month.
Oh, great!
I suppose, great. Yes. I am very happy because it's an American history. So it starts in United States, and then there is another part of history in Europe. It speaks about a young journalist named Oliver Smith. That doesn't want to study anymore. He wants to be a journalist, a real journalist, and he lives United States, the city of Chicago, and reach his friend that is in Spain in the period of the Francisco Franco.
Yeah.
And the Civil War, the Hispanian Civil War, and then he has a great experience during this war, and he became a war journalist, and he reached his friend, and then come back in United States to realize his dream. And this is the first novel. I take my inspiration from a great figure of literature, of the American literature, and his name is Ernest Hemingway. Mm-hmm. Because you know Ernest Hemingway came from Chicago, and he was a war journalist, and he saw with his eyes the Civil War in Italy, the first war in Italy, and the war between Republican and fascisti. I don't know in American.
Fascist.
And yes, fascist. And then this is my inspiration, the history of Ernest Hemingway. but Oliver is a character, or an original character. But it reminds a short history of Hemingway. I don't know if you know that Hemingway was in Italy when he was about 50 years old, and in Campania near Salerno. I don't know.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. He was in a very little country in front of the sea, a wonderful country, and I visited this country with my family, and then I listened the story, and I was inspired by this wonderful character, and so I became to write something.
Did you write before the novel? Did you like write magazine or what? What
Yeah.
if that's your first novel? I mean, I'm assuming you wrote a lot before you're writing the first novel, yeah.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.com. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co.
Yeah. I have to study a lot because I am a teacher. I am a teacher of Italian literature and history. So I know the history, but this is a very it's very difficult to write about an historical period like the year before the Second World War. And so, yes, I have to study a lot because if you want to write an historical novel, you have to be very, you have to pay very attention, because who read this book maybe wants to read the truth.
I interviewed somebody. She's from America, and she wrote about, and her name escapes me, but she wrote about Garibaldi's wife,
Yeah,
the one from South America,
Anita Garibaldi.
Anita, yes. And I, when I first looked at it, I said, this is probably a book for women, but it wasn't. It was, and she had a lot of detail about, and I knew Garibaldi in Italy. I never knew, and I'm a big history guy, I never knew that Garibaldi spent so many years in South America and fought in the revolutions in South America and then came back. It was almost like he got his training there, so it was her story, which was great. But she also gave you a lot of facts about Garibaldi and, the people that he worked with in South America, and then when he came back to Italy and his whole life. So I found that very fascinating and sad too, because she passed away pretty young. I know what you're saying. If you're going to write historical fiction, you should really have the real history in there, rather than something that's just made up. And the other thing, I've been trying to find somebody, either in America or Italy, to talk to about the Italian nobility, because there's not a lot of books written about it, and there's very few people to talk to about it. So if you know of someone that speaks English that would want to talk to me about Italian nobility, I'd love to talk to them. Because there's so much history there that people don't. I mean, everybody knows that Italy became a country in 1861. A lot of people don't understand not only the regions, but how all of these little cities were their own, almost like their own country. Back in the 1600s, and people say, I'm 100% Italian, but how come I see Spanish, or how come I see French? Well, it's because they ruled the country for centuries, in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fascinating, and we'll look forward to that coming out. I'll make sure I check that out. Now, the second book is about World War II, right?
Yes, the second book is another historical novel, because I am in love with history, and I love Promessi Sposi, Alessandro Manzoni. Do you know? Do you know this book is a very famous book of a great writer, Italian writer of the 19th century, Alessandro Manzoni. I don't know if you...
I don't know him now.
Okay, it's a very, very important book for the literature, like Divina Commedia of Dante Alighieri. Okay, and he wrote an historical novel set in Milano during the a pandemic of the 17th century, and so I was inspired to write historical novels, but as I talked to you, is very, very difficult. So this second, A Perfect Sky is the name, or is the title of the book, is a set in Italy, start in Italy, in Campania, between Naples, Salerno, and Castellabate, and then came abroad in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, and it's a very particular story. It's a story of a submarine that is under the sea, and during the Second World War, just few minutes, few hours before knowing that Italians has signed an armistizio, and the end of the war, this submarine was destroyed, by English bomb. Just a few hours before knowing that the end, that the war is ended. So it's a tragedy, because in this submarine there were about 50 soldiers of the Italian Marina, Italian
Navy.
Yes, Navy. And it's a real history. It's a true history. And when I saw this place, and when I saw the photo of this submarine, I became to travel with my brain, with my mind, and so I have I saw a girl that is in love with an English soldier, an Italian girl that fell in love with an English soldier. And it's a very troubled love, because he has to go away, and then he has to leave her. And this is and after 50 years, she wants to find her love again, and then he leaves for the Ireland, because he was an Ireland soldier. Mm-hmm. I hope to be clear, because it's a very busy novel, but it's a love history, and I don't want to tell you the end, because I don't want to spoil. Okay, but for the moment it's only in Italian. Maybe one day it will be translated in English. I don't know. For the moment, only in Italian.
Well, I have a lot of listeners that are fluent and can read it. So you know, when you do these novels, because I'm a big history fan. That's why I started this whole genealogy thing in the first place. Do you visit, the places? Yeah.
Yes, every place in the novel is a place that I have visited with my family, because I travel a lot. and so I fell in love with the places, and these places, the places came into my novel. Yes, absolutely. And in Campania, there are a lot of beautiful places just on the sea. And there are a lot of histories about soldiers and ship in the Second World War, because American, English and Americans came in Italy from the Sicily, and then he traveled to Naples. Then they tried to battle with the German just in Naples and then in Rome. So they came from the south of Italy to free the Italy from the German. Yes, the German.
Yeah, and
the Nazis.
My oldest uncle, Uncle Giovanni, he didn't leave Italy. Well, when my grandparents came, they left him behind with his grandparents when he was about 2 or 3 years old. He was in Italy and his family through the war. They didn't come until 1950. So I had asked my cousin, I guess she was probably about 10 or so at the start of the war, what it was like, and she said, well, Torito, there was nothing there for the Germans, the Americans, anybody else. She said, but she remembers seeing the bombers come over, bomb the port in Bari. And she said that my aunt would gather up all the kids and they'd run into the field, so I guess in case a stray bomb hit or something like that. And she talked about it, how tough it was. There wasn't food. She said basically they lived on beans and whatever they could live off the land. There wasn't a lot of food. And then she finally told me that I guess after the Germans left, that she was involved a little bit in, I guess as a 14-year-old could be involved in the black market, I guess selling cigarettes or whatever.
Yes. A lot of Italian authors wrote about this period, because for us, it was a very, very difficult, and we have to fight one to each other. Italians and Italians has to fight to have something to eat. And you spoke about the black market. Yes, it's a very, very sad things that happen in our country. I wrote a lot of these things. I wrote about an Italian author. His name is Alberto Moravia, that wrote a novel about a woman that has to do this black market to go away with his daughter, because it's the only way to eat something. And is set between Rome and the countries around Rome. And yes, it's very, very, very sad thing.
What went through Italians' minds when the Germans came in? Because initially, Hitler saw Mussolini as an idol rather than the other way around. Growing up, I always thought it was the other way around. I always thought that Hitler was the more powerful guy, but that's not true. Hitler got a lot of his ideas from Mussolini, and that kind of changed around. But what was the Italian feelings about what happened between Germany and Italy and Mussolini and Hitler and all of that?
We'll be right back.
Lafayette, we are here, the French history podcast for the American public by a Frenchman. Learn all about France's fascinating history, its great characters like Charlemagne, Joan of Arc, Louis XIV, or Napoleon, but also the great events that marked France, Europe, and sometimes the whole world. Lafayette, we're here, available wherever you get your podcast or on LafayettePodcast.com. À bientôt.
Okay. When the first World War ended, Italy is destroyed economically. So Mussolini was very, very clear to understand what Italians what Italians want, and Italians wanted to eat, wanted the work, wanted the future. And so in that period in Italy there was a king, Vittorio Emanuele II. There was a monarchy, and Mussolini was very, very able, very, very strong to promise the Italians that everything will be changed. And there will be work and job for everyone, and the only thing that he wants to reach everything he has promised with a strong power, and so with the force he wants the Italian vote for him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with the gun, I studied that when Italians choose the fascists, the vote, they vote with gun around the neck. Okay.
Yeah.
Because yes, and the parliament was black, full of fascists. There were not parties of opposition parties, just fascists. And so it became to create a power stronger and stronger in the year. And in the 1930, Hitler tried to do a push, un colpo di stato, a push. I don't know if you know these words in German. He tried something, but it didn't succeed, because German has a tradition of freedom. So all the things that Mussolini do, with doing nothing, okay, he promised to Mussolini to take the power with no words. And after Hitler saw what Mussolini did, and he liked it, and became to build the Nazi fascism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with everything, the law between the law against the Jewish. Okay,
Yeah.
but it was Mussolini first to create all these diabolic plan. And Italian, I suppose that Italians and the Germans have the same feelings when they thought about Mussolini and Hitler, because both these powerful men, full of charisma, have taken these two countries in a diabolic period. In the bottom of the humanity.
But Mussolini, I mean, I know he started the war with Ethiopia for no good reason and stuff like that. But within Italy, what made him align himself with Hitler? Was it just power and control of Europe? Was that it?
No. Can you repeat this?
I said, what made Mussolini want to align himself with Hitler? Was it just power?
Yes, because he take the power in 1922. Mussolini became the head of the parliament in 1922, And Hitler didn't have the power in German in this period, because in this period in German there was a sort of republic that was named the Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, it started with Mussolini, and first of Hitler, and first of Francisco Franco in Spain.
Right. Yes. The three. Yeah.
And Stalin in Russia. These are the four fascist power in Europe in the period between the First and the Second World War.
Well, and Franco was smart because he stayed out of the war.
Sorry?
I said Franco was smart. He stayed out of World War II. He was neutral.
Francisco Franco?
Yeah,
yes,
Spain,
yes,
yeah.
yes, because the Spain had didn't have the resource, didn't have money to take to build for arms and for soldiers, because there was a different situation in Spain. So Francisco Franco decided not to participate to war. Instead, but I don't know if you know this history. Mussolini didn't enter the war in the first time. He waited to enter the war. He declared to want to enter the war just 1 year after the beginning of the Second World War, because it started in 1939 with the invasion of Poland from Hitler, but Mussolini wasn't had not money to enter in the war. So he had to wait, and in the meantime, a pact with Hitler. But when Hitler called Mussolini in the war, Mussolini was constricted, was
he had
to enter.
Yeah.
And this was our problem, because we had not money to build arm and other everything is necessary to do a war, and this is the problem. I hope to be clear.
No, it's clear. I'll tell you a funny story about Spain in I guess it was the early 1960s, maybe 1961, 1962. I had a good friend. Actually, he was my boss for many years. He was stationed in Spain during the early 1960s in the U.S. Air Force, and he said if they went into a bar with Spanish in there, he said if it was crowded, he said they would start, because Franco was still alive. He said all they had to do was say something about Franco, and all the Spanish people would leave the bar. That's how afraid they were of Franco. Even in 1960, they were terrified of him. He said it was just amazing how terrified the people were of Franco. Now, were the Italian people? I'm guessing early on they weren't necessarily afraid of Mussolini, right? Like the Germans were afraid. I think the average German after a while was very afraid of Hitler, but were Italians, were they afraid of Mussolini?
Yeah, they were afraid because Mussolini as a great army, a black army of people that do everything he wanted. For example, in Jewish shops, they entered and destroyed everything. And not only Jewish, but the communists, the homosexual, every kind of person that didn't agree with the fascists were destroyed. Every activity, every job was destroyed. And so Italians were obligated to become fascists. Maybe they didn't like Mussolini, but they were obligated to sign the fascist card. Or they would be assassinated or exiliated in other country. I remember the name of an important historian and political man, Antonio Gramsci, that was a communist, a very genius, a great man that was in prison, were imprisoned for his idea, and he died when he when he became free. He died because in prison he has suffered a lot, and in prison there were a lot of brilliant, intelligent men, communist men, and teachers. Men of literature. Yes, it was a very everyone were afraid of the fascists. Absolutely.
So now that did you know whether your father or grandfather were they in the army during World War II?
My grandfather, yes, during the Second World War, not in the war, but 2 years before, because Mussolini had agreed to the idea to create an empire, and then and then he sent a lot of men of an Italian army in Africa, in Ethiopia, in order to conquer Ethiopia, Somalia, and other country. And so my grandfather, yes, my grandfather Pasquale, yes, was a man of the army. I suppose in 1936.
Oh, so early, yeah, so early
before the Second World War.
Yeah,
yes.
my grandfather, my mother's father, that's why they came to America, from what I was told. He fought in the Libyan War, I guess, 1911 or something like that.
Okay, before the first World War.
And then when World War I broke out, my grandmother said, "You fought in one war, you're not going to fight in another war," and that's why they came to America. And I think, I'm guessing, because they left my uncle behind, I think they had planned to go back, but then they started having more children, and they didn't have a lot of money. And what we have from my uncle, he didn't want to leave. My cousin was smart enough to record my uncle in Barres before he died, and he told his story. He didn't want to leave his grandparents behind because that was the only family he knew. So, like I said, they stayed there until 1950, and then came to Canada, and then eventually they made it to America. Yeah, I mean, that's why Italy's such a fascinating place from history, and
yeah.
And I'm trying to. I'm not a writer, but I have somebody who knows how to write. It is editing for me. But
think of this. I am just thinking about the thing you have said. Why don't you write something about your history? Because they are very, very beautiful, and the world needs to listen this history, I suppose.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm telling the stories that I know from my family, but I'm also going back to the noble families in Italy, because nobody knows about them. I mean, I had no idea about these figures. One family, for example, I forget which one, for almost 100 years, every generation, they were the executioners for that particular city or town or whatever. And who's poisoning who and who had his wife's head chopped off and all these crazy kinds of things,
Okay, sweet.
from these noble families. And that's why I'm dying to find somebody who could talk about that. People don't realize that, I'll find somebody who's, he maybe owned 10 fiefdoms, in central Italy or something like that. Or in one case, the wife, he got a town as the dowry for marrying this woman. I mean, think about it. It wasn't, a couple of $1,000s. The father gave him a town to marry his daughter. So, those kinds of things, we know about the English nobles and monarchy because there's a lot about it. And we know about the French, the Capet and all those people. Nobody knows about the Spanish in Italy, the French in Italy, the Austrians in Italy. And it's a fascinating story, at least to me anyway. And of course we know about Rome, but there's between Rome and 1861, there's a lot of things that went on in Italy that people just don't know about. So I'm including some of those kinds of things in there too, because to me it's fascinating. I hope other people find it the same way. Thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'll publish the links to the book and everything like that. And like I said, we'll look forward to the first novel coming out in English.
Okay.
And hopefully we get the second one in English. And if you come across anybody who wants to talk about a Spanish nobility in Italy, let me know.
Okay. I am so happy to have spoken with you about history and the literature. I adore to speak about, and in English for me it's very, very important. I thank you so much.
All right, thanks again.